They're standing still. Well, all right. I'll go and try to see what they're doing over there.
That's a good bull. At least 300 kilograms, if not more.
It just so happened that today it's almost 20 degrees below zero outside, so there was no way to record on the go. To be honest, my dogs are young. This is their first independent work on a moose. At this time of year, moose usually don't stand still for long because it's very noisy in the forest. Well, it looks like the dogs managed it. Good job, Berku, you barked the most. You're my good boy. You could say the dogs got lucky. The bull they came across was quite large and alone. Animals like this usually behave more calmly towards dogs. They feel their own strength, so they're not as skittish and generally let the dogs bark at them. The bull is a good one, about 6 or 7 years old, no less. The moose is definitely a trophy, but the quality of meat from such animals requires special preparation. All right, you can go ahead. Put the hooves over to that side, just a little more. Carefully now. Come on, Vitya, you can do it. Come over here, to this side, right over here, where I am standing. That's it, that's perfect. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Take a moment to rest. You did a great job. Everything is finished now. Well done, Vitya. Well, that's it for now. So what we'll be doing next is carefully cutting into these barrels, making sure we handle them safely and use the right tools for the job. After we've finished cutting, we'll stack the barrels neatly and securely, so they stay in place and are easy to move. Once that's done, the next step will be to move the stacked barrels into the water, where we'll position them as planned. Hello everyone, and thank you for being here with us today. Today we're continuing our preparations for winter. We're going to make canned moose meat. Well, I'll record the recipe for how we do it. Basically, preparation is needed in any task. It's the most important part of the process, just like in hunting. That's why today we're focusing on preparation. The whole process will take about 3 days, but in the best case 2. My friends Vitya and Gina are actively involved in this process. These will be way too big. About the size of a matchbox, no bigger. No need to make them smaller and no bigger either. A matchbox is the most optimal size. We got ourselves a big, impressive bull, so the best option is to make a delicious stew out of it. The legs, both the hind and the front, and the neck, all of these will go into the stew. Otherwise, this bull would simply be impossible to chew. The bull has 9 tines, 9 and 8, I think, on one side. So, what do we have in terms of age? Probably 5 to 7 years old, right, Jen? Something like that. Well, so we don't have to guess here. 5.5. 5.5, yeah? Alright, let's just say 5.5 years. So basically the bull is mature. He actively participated in the rut, so his meat, let's say, is about average. This is a clean barrel, right? Yes, it's clean, that's it. Well, obviously the meat really needs to be thoroughly cleaned. Even though there was already snow on the ground by that time, some small bits of dirt, twigs, hair and so on still managed to get on it, so we carefully clean off the main dirt and trim away the membranes. And as I already mentioned earlier, we carefully cut the meat into small cubes, each one being approximately the size of a typical matchbox. This is probably the most optimal and ideal size for the meat pieces, so that it becomes much easier to turn them into a delicious stew later on. Today this preparation will probably take us at least half a day, as there are several important steps that need to be done carefully to ensure everything is handled properly. Usually, when it's freezing at this time of year, we just hang the meat up and don't worry about it, because the cold temperatures naturally help preserve the meat and keep it from spoiling, making the process much simpler and less stressful for us. When you need some, you just come, saw off a piece and eat it. But this year the autumn has been so mild. It's already practically the middle of November, and it's 3 degrees above zero outside. So it's clear that if this continues, the meat will simply go bad, that's all. And we'll have to feed it to the dogs. Of course, the dogs will get some anyway, but still, you can't help but worry about the results of your hard work, and whether all your effort will truly pay off. So if we can't keep it frozen, perhaps because of storage limitations or occasional power outages, we'll store it as stew instead. This way, the meat is preserved for longer and is easier to serve when needed. Actually, that's even better for the bull, since stew helps keep the nutrients and flavors, making each meal wholesome and tasty. You ate recently, so you'll have to wait. We'll give you some later if you don't mind waiting. Yeah, about pieces this size, typically about the size of a matchbox, approximately. No bigger and no smaller, so we don't do unnecessary work, but also to make sure it all turns out more or less good quality. Poor thing. Well, it's for cutlets, but as for the legs, you can't just boil that meat. You'd have to cook it for 2 days for it to... But in stew, it'll all get done, it'll be great. Then you just take out a jar, and before cooking, you just pour out the ready-made stuff. Vitya, is your flashlight on?
No, it's just brighter this way.
It's to see this.
Yeah,
Yeah, all our snow has melted here. It's autumn again.
I suppose.
I believe this is probably the kind of weather we'll have until New Year's this year. The wind is blowing along the river again, the water and all that. But there's no such thing as bad weather in nature. Every kind of weather is truly a wonderful blessing. We don't mind, we're saving the scraps for the dogs. The dogs definitely deserve it as well. This time, Burkut and Taiga made us proud as Laikas. They carefully helped us work this fur. So basically, good job. Well, I won't praise them too much. This is their first moose. Maybe they just got lucky or maybe not. But time will tell. We'll see. Let's wait and see. They did well in any case. They made us happy. We let it hang for 5 days, or as they say, let it mature, to allow it to mature properly. It loses excess moisture and begins to dry out slightly. And after 5 to 7 days, depending on the temperature, we start working with it. The shot during the hunt is important because if the meat ends up heavily blooded, like in our case, the neck and legs turned out to be in excellent condition, meaning there was almost practically no blood anywhere, so we didn't need to soak this meat. And where there are hematomas, as a rule, all of that gets trimmed off. We leave the meat to soak for about a full day. After soaking, we gently drain the meat in a colander to remove excess water. And then we let it sit for a while so it can drain completely. After that, once everything is ready, we'll begin the process of cooking it. Готово. So that it gets a shock. That's it. Now we simply wait patiently for it to set. After it has set completely, we carefully skim off the foam from the surface. The dogs will thank you for the foam too, as it not only helps to clean their fur more effectively, but also provides a gentle and soothing sensation during bath time, making the experience much more comfortable and enjoyable for them. And as a result, we'll get clean meat. After carefully skimming the foam, we let the meat gently simmer for another 10 to 15 minutes, no more, just so it shrinks a bit. A rich and aromatic broth. Pour the broth into a pot, we'll need it later. From today's process, I ended up with two components. That's the broth I used to cook the meat and the meat itself. I'll need these two important components to proceed forward to the next stage. It's already mid-November, and just yesterday, the temperature here reached 12 degrees above zero, which is quite warm for this time of year. In recent years, summer hasn't been very enjoyable, often feeling disappointing or less pleasant than expected. Now let's move on to the topic of salt. When you are cooking, how much salt do you usually add to your food?
Well, just some salt like this.
Not full teaspoon. Not
Teaspoon, yeah.
That's it.
You can always add more during cooking. And this one's pure. For preservation, yeah, exactly.
What spices are you adding?
Well, just one allspice peppercorn.
Why so stingy?
If you add too much allspice, the aroma will become too strong. Use about 5 to 10 whole black peppercorns. For the bay leaf, just use the type you have on hand.
Just one, right?
From the south, one big one like this, as you can see, of course.
Yeah, you have to be careful with bay leaf, because sometimes it's really strong, sometimes it's mild. Yeah, but still.
The ones from the store? Sure. You can use a whole leaf, but the good ones you have from the south, better to use less.
It's better to add more salt and pepper at the end of cooking rather than
having it all in the jar already, right there for you.
Then we start with the meat, right?
Yeah, that's it basically. Salt, 2 kinds of pepper, bay leaf. That's everything. That's all there is to it.
And we pack the meat in tightly, right? Well,
yeah, tightly. It's good when the pieces are cut small. So yeah, that's fine.
Like I said, a matchbox-sized piece shrinks by about 25%.
And
you end up with a 3x3 piece like that, and your mouth is happy. And also it packs more tightly in the jar. And in the
jar, it's meat, not
jelly. Otherwise, you'll end up with too much jelly. There will be a lot of empty spaces, so the size of the meat really matters.
Yeah, the size definitely does matter.
By the way, when I make cod liver, I don't add much salt either. Just a tiny bit as well.
With cod liver, even less, really. I actually
measured it with stew. We keep for 2 years at temperatures up to plus 10 degrees Celsius. It's fine, doesn't spoil. I haven't kept it longer, but for 2 years it stays good. It doesn't explode or anything. We add pork fat. Well, everyone uses something different. Some use bear fat, some use other kinds. I have pork fat. My mom sent it from Krasnodar. It's called smales. It's internal fat. So we add it by the spoonful, a teaspoon at a time. Then we take a large ladle, carefully scoop up some of the hot broth in which we cook the meat, and without splashing, slowly pour it into the jars. The broth turns out to be very clear and golden in color. And when the jars go through the process of thermal processing, this flavorful broth gradually turns into a jelly. But I'll show you that at the end. Oh, it's so clear like this. The main thing is not to shake it too much because there are still some sediments in the form of heavy particles that have settled at the bottom. So we carefully pour it in like this and then set the jars on the table. We've filled all the jars with broth. We close them with lids. And we carefully transport all of these jars to the steam bath. Now at this stage, I'm going to carefully stack this stew into the canning tank. This tank is designed to hold a large number of jars, making it ideal for preserving food in bulk. Specifically, it can accommodate 16 jars per layer, with each jar containing 800 grams of stew. The jars are arranged neatly in a single layer at the bottom of the tank, ensuring they are stable and evenly spaced. Once the first layer is complete, add a second layer of 16 jars and then a third layer, so the tank holds a total of 48 jars. This method makes the most efficient use of the available space and allows all the jars to be processed at the same time. Between each layer of jars, I place pieces of plain, clean fabric, just like the one I have here. The fabric acts as a protective barrier, so when the jars start boiling and vibrating during the heating process, it helps prevent them from knocking against each other, reducing the risk of cracks or breakage, like a clean fresh sheet or something quite similar. That's it. This is my last layer, the final one that I will be adding to this project. The third one, which completes the set of layers I plan to use. That's all. I've carefully loaded all of the jars. Now, I'll add water so that all of the jars are completely submerged. So all of my jars are now completely and fully submerged under the water. If you are worried or concerned that the jars might possibly explode, do not worry. We simply cover each jar with a secure lid. But just in case, if the water starts to boil off, if for some reason the water level drops, you can add more water. But never add cold water, to avoid thermal shock, otherwise the jar might crack. The water you add should be at least the same temperature as what's already in there. So I put a bucket on the stove. That's it. And that's all, we're killing two birds with one stone. We're really enjoying the relaxing sauna and making a hearty stew at the same time. The temperature in the sauna is 110 degrees, which is a common setting for traditional saunas. At this temperature, you will quickly feel the intense heat, causing your body to sweat and your skin to tingle. This environment is intended to help you relax and improve your circulation. My stew is boiling. That's all for now. I'm closing up the stove just to be sure. I'm leaving it until tomorrow evening. It won't cool down before then. It will remain hot for a longer period of time, so that's the whole process. Just so you don't suspect me of any substitution or forgery. Here you can simply pick any jar you like at your own pace. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And that's it. I guess on this optimistic note, I'll wrap things up for today. Good luck to everyone,